the stranger on Ninth Avenue. The morning sun peeked over the tops of quiet apartment buildings in downtown Los Angeles. It was the kind of day that seemed to promise peace, with soft light, birds chirping, and people slowly waking up to the rhythm of city life. In the middle of this calm, a man in a plain black hoodie, jeans, and worn sneakers strolled down Ninth Avenue. He kept his head low, his pace steady. People passed him, some offering a polite nod, others too busy with their phones or coffee to notice. They didn't realize it was Keanu Reeves. He wasn't on a film set. He wasn't there for a fan event or premiere. He was just walking, alone, without security, without anyone trailing him. For him, these walks meant something. They were his way of staying grounded in a world that constantly tried to lift him into something he never wanted to be, some untouchable celebrity figure. But Keanu never saw himself like that. He just wanted to live, to breathe the same air, to see the world through the eyes of people who weren't behind a camera. He turned onto a narrow block lined with low-income apartments and small businesses. A laundromat sat at the corner, its door held open by a broken brick. Next to it, a small corner store with flickering lights over its name, Jimmy's Market. And beside that, a public bench where a girl no older than 7 sat alone, swinging her feet and clutching a pink backpack. Keanu slowed down. Her clothes were worn and slightly too big for her. Her face was tired in a way children's faces should never be. But she wasn't crying. She wasn't panicking. She just waited. That was what caught Keanu's attention, the quiet stillness of her. He walked toward her slowly, careful not to scare her. "Hey," he said softly, kneeling down so their eyes were level. "Are you okay?" The girl looked at him, her eyes wide, guarded. "I'm waiting for my mom," she whispered. "Okay. Do you want me to wait with you?" She hesitated. Her fingers curled tighter around the strap of her backpack. Then she nodded. They sat together in silence for a few moments. Keanu didn't say much. He just sat with her, watching the occasional car pass, listening to the sounds of the city slowly come to life. "What's your name?" he asked after a while. "Lily. That's a beautiful name." "I'm Keanu." "Like the movie?" "Guy," he smiled. "Yeah, kind of." Lily gave a little smile back, but her eyes kept flicking toward the corner. Keanu could feel it, the unease in her shoulders, the way she kept checking the street. He sensed that something wasn't right. "Lily, when did your mom say she'd be back?" She looked down. "She didn't. She told me to sit here and wait." Keanu's heart ached. Something deep and protective stirred inside him. "Okay," he said calmly. "How about we go to the store and get a juice? You look thirsty." She hesitated again, then nodded slowly. Keanu stood and held out his hand. Lily took it. They walked into Jimmy's Market together. The man behind the counter looked up and nodded at Keanu, his eyes widening slightly with recognition but saying nothing. Keanu grabbed a small bottle of orange juice and paid for it, handing it to Lily without a word. She sipped it quietly, just as they turned to leave. The sound of screeching tires tore through the peaceful morning. Outside, a black SUV had come to a sudden stop in front of the laundromat. The back doors flung open. 2 masked men jumped out, one with a handgun, the other with a metal pipe. Keanu instinctively pushed Lily behind him. "Get inside!" the store owner shouted, diving behind the counter. But it was too late. The man with the gun turned and pointed directly at the store. His eyes locked on Keanu. "Get out of the way!" he yelled. Keanu held up his hands. "Take it easy. There's a child here." The man didn't care. "I said move." Keanu didn't move. Everything slowed down. He could hear Lily breathing fast behind him, could feel her little fingers gripping the back of his hoodie. His body moved before his mind could. The man raised the gun, and in that split second, Keanu did what no one expected. He stepped in front of the girl. The sound of the gunshot shattered the morning silence. Pain exploded through Keanu's side. He fell to the ground, gasping. The man with the gun cursed and ran, his partner following as they jumped back into the SUV and peeled away. Keanu rolled onto his back, his breath short, pain shooting through every part of his body. His hand instinctively went to the wound. Warm blood soaked his hoodie, but all he could think about was Lily. She was kneeling beside him, crying now. "Don't die, please don't die." Keanu looked at her, his face pale but calm. He reached out, touched her cheek gently. "You're okay. That's all that matters," he said, his voice trembling. She held his hand tight, her tears falling on his fingers. "You saved me," she whispered. Keanu tried to smile. "Of course I did. Someone had to." Sirens wailed in the distance. People began to gather, phones out, voices rising, but Keanu didn't hear any of it. All he saw was this little girl, this small soul who had been abandoned on a city bench, who had just watched a stranger take a bullet to protect her. The paramedics arrived moments later. They worked quickly, their movements precise. As they lifted Keanu onto the stretcher, Lily tried to follow. A woman from the crowd stepped in, gently holding her back. "Don't worry," Keanu said through clenched teeth, looking at Lily as he was wheeled away. "I'll be okay, and so will you." Then he closed his eyes, and the screen fades to black. But the story was just beginning. Whispers in the hospital. Keanu's eyes fluttered open to a blur of white lights and sterile ceiling tiles. The scent of antiseptic filled his nose. His body ached, especially his side. He tried to move, but a soft beep from a nearby monitor warned him not to. A nurse immediately stepped in, placing a gentle hand on his arm. "Don't move too much," she said quietly. "You're safe. You're in good hands." His throat was dry. He tried to speak, but only a rough whisper came out. "The girl?" The nurse smiled gently. "She's okay. She's here. The police are with her. They want to speak with you too, but not until you rest. You lost a lot of blood, but you're stable now." Keanu let out a slow breath of relief. In the corner of his mind, the sound of that gunshot still echoed. It wasn't the pain that stayed with him, it was the fear he'd seen in Lily's eyes. And now something even heavier settled in his chest. He had a feeling this wasn't over. Later that afternoon, a quiet knock tapped against the hospital room door. The nurse peeked in again. "Keanu," she said softly, "someone's here to see you." He nodded slowly. The door opened, and in stepped Detective Ramirez, tall and lean with tired eyes that had seen too many things. Behind him stood Lily, clutching a small brown teddy bear someone must have given her. She didn't say anything at first, she just looked at him. "Hey, sunshine," Keanu whispered. Lily ran to him, stopping just short of the bed. "You didn't die." He chuckled weakly. "Not yet." She climbed up gently onto the chair beside him. "They said you're a hero." Keanu shook his head. "I'm just a guy who didn't want to see a little girl get hurt." Detective Ramirez stepped forward. "Mr. Reeves, I hate to bring this up while you're recovering, but we need to know what happened. This wasn't a random robbery. Those men weren't targeting the store. They were looking for someone." Keanu's brow furrowed. "You think they were after me?" Ramirez shook his head. "We're not sure, but something's off. And the girl..." He paused and glanced at Lily. "She has no known address. The name she gave doesn't match any missing child reports. We ran her fingerprints. Nothing." Keanu looked at Lily. "Is Lily your real name?" She looked down at her bear. "It's what my mama used to call me. I don't know my real name." Keanu's heart cracked a little more. Ramirez continued. "We think she may be connected to something bigger, maybe a runaway, maybe part of a custody dispute, possibly even a witness." "A witness to what?" Keanu asked. Ramirez hesitated. "We don't know yet. But those men weren't amateurs. They had training. And they weren't trying to rob. They were trying to silence." Keanu tried to sit up but winced in pain. "Whatever this is, I'm not leaving her." "You might not have a choice," Ramirez said grimly. "Child Protective Services wants to place her in a group home until they find out more." "No." Keanu's voice was firm despite the weakness. "She stays with me." "That's not how this works," Ramirez replied. Keanu turned to Lily. "Do you want to stay with me?" She nodded, her eyes wide with fear. Please, I don't want to go back to strangers. Ramirez sighed, rubbing his face. We'll see what we can do, maybe as a temporary guardian if you're up for it. Keanu didn't hesitate. I'm up for it. After they left, the room went quiet again. Lily fell asleep beside him in the chair, her little hand resting on the edge of his blanket. Keanu watched her in silence. This child. She was more than just a girl left on a bench. She was a key to something dangerous and hidden, and now he was part of it. Later that night, the news broke across every major network. Keanu Reeves takes bullet to save child. The headlines exploded online. Social media was flooded with praise, clips, and theories, but none of them knew the full truth. The truth was darker. Somewhere across town, in a dim, smoky room, two men sat watching the same report. He survived. One of them muttered, his voice rough. The other man leaned back in his chair, his face partially hidden in shadow. And the girl? Still with him. They're saying he's her guardian. Now! The shadowed man narrowed his eyes. Then we finish what we started. The next morning, Keanu was released from the hospital under heavy security. His house was now under surveillance. A legal team worked to process guardianship paperwork. Lily stayed by his side, barely speaking, her teddy bear never far from her arms. Keanu noticed her flinch at loud sounds, how she avoided windows, how she never really relaxed. Something deep in her had been broken long before he met her. One evening, while she was drawing quietly at the kitchen table, he sat beside her. You know, he said gently, you can tell me anything. I won't get mad. I just want to help. She looked up at him. You really mean it? He nodded. She took a deep breath, her small hand trembling slightly. Those men, they knew my mom. She worked for someone bad. Really bad. Keanu's heart beat faster. What kind of bad? The kind that hurt people, the kind that take kids. His blood ran cold. One day, she continued, my mom told me to run. She said if anything happened to her, I had to hide, and I did. I never saw her again. I waited for her to come back, but she didn't. Tears welled in her eyes. Keanu reached out and gently held her hand. Then the bad men found me. But you were there. Keanu's mind raced. This wasn't a custody issue. This was something deeper, possibly connected to organized crime, trafficking, or something far worse. And now they were watching. He looked around his own house, his sense of peace shattered. They weren't safe. Not really. Not until the truth came out. Do you remember anything about the man your mom worked for? Keanu asked. Lily nodded slowly. His name was Mr. V. Just V, she said. Never say the full name. He listens. Chills ran down Keanu's spine. He had faced villains, in movies and scripts on screen, but this was something else. Real, invisible, and dangerous. I'm going to protect you, Lily, he whispered. No matter what. And in the shadows outside, behind a parked car, a man watched through a scope, his finger gently caressing the trigger. But he didn't pull it. Not yet. He just watched, waiting. The drawing that screamed rain tapped gently against the window panes of Keanu's quiet home. It was a soft night. Still, almost too still. Inside, the only light came from the warm kitchen, where Lily sat at the table, crayons scattered around her. She was coloring again. She always colored when her thoughts grew too heavy to speak. Keanu leaned against the doorway, watching her. He was healing slowly. His side still hurt, but he didn't care about that. His focus was Lily now. Everything else had faded into background noise. What are you drawing? He asked softly, stepping closer. Lily didn't look up right away. Her hand moved with care, outlining the shape of a tall man wearing a suit. Behind him, she drew dark figures, faceless, standing, in shadows. Then her crayon shifted to red, coloring what looked like a shattered window and a small girl hiding under a table. Keanu's stomach tightened. She finally looked up. This is the night my mom told me to run. He sat beside her, his voice gentle. Is that him? The man she worked for? She nodded. I remember his eyes, they were cold, like he didn't care if anyone got hurt. And the others? His men. They never talk. They just listen to him. Keanu studied the picture. His instincts told him there was more to it than a child's memory. It was too detailed. Too exact. Lily, can you show me where this happened? I don't know where it was, she said. But I remember the building had a big red bird, painted on the side, like a phoenix, and lots of cameras. Keanu's breath caught. He'd seen that symbol before. Back when he was filming a movie in Romania, a local fixer had warned him to stay away from a certain neighborhood run by a group called the Ember Circle. They were rumored to be part of an underground trafficking network, and their mark, a red phoenix, was said to be their silent warning to anyone who dared to look too close. Now that symbol was appearing in Lily's drawings. Before he could ask more, a loud crash echoed from the back of the house. Glass shattered. Keanu jumped up instantly and grabbed Lily, pulling her behind him. He didn't have a weapon. He never kept one in the house, but he moved like a man who knew danger well. Another window broke. Then footsteps. Fast. Heavy. They were inside. Keanu pulled Lily into the pantry and quietly shut the door. He crouched beside her, his hand over her mouth as he whispered, "No matter what, stay quiet." Tears welled up in her eyes, but she nodded. Outside, the intruders moved quickly. They weren't thieves. They were looking for something, or someone. Keanu peeked through the pantry slats. He could see shadows moving past the kitchen. 2 men dressed in black, armed, trained. One of them paused near Lily's drawing. "Check every room," he ordered in a low voice. "He has the girl." Keanu's heart pounded. He couldn't fight 2 men in his condition, and he couldn't risk them finding Lily. A sudden noise distracted them. The front door burst open. "Lay PD! Drop your weapons!" Detective Ramirez. Shouts followed. A struggle, then gunshots. Keanu shielded Lily as the house erupted in chaos. Then silence. Keanu opened the pantry door slowly. Ramirez stood there holding a smoking pistol, breathing hard. 2 masked men lay on the floor, unconscious and bleeding. "You all right?" Ramirez asked. Keanu nodded. "You were watching?" "We had a car parked down the block. Figured they might try something." He looked at the wreckage. "Looks like we were right." Keanu helped Lily out. She clung to his arm, eyes wide with fear. Ramirez bent down beside the intruders and pulled something from their pockets. Black cards with the same red phoenix symbol. "You know what this means?" he asked Keanu. "I think so," Keanu replied. "They're real. The Ember Circle." Ramirez nodded grimly. "And if they're coming after you, we need to take this public." Keanu looked at Lily. "No, they'll come harder if they know she's talking. We need to find them first." That night, after the house was cleared and secured, Keanu sat with Lily on the couch, wrapping a blanket around her. She was quiet again. Her eyes were distant. "You did good," he said softly. "You were so brave." She leaned against him. "I don't want to be brave anymore." He held her tighter. "You don't have to be. I'll be brave for both of us." She nodded, drifting off to sleep against his shoulder. But Keanu stayed awake, his mind racing. This wasn't about chance anymore. This was war. The Ember Circle had made it personal. They had sent men to his home. They had put a child in danger. And now Keanu Reeves was going to take the fight to them. Early the next morning, Keanu drove to a warehouse near the edge of the city, the same one he remembered hearing about during that film shoot years ago. He walked in alone, knowing full well what kind of place it might be. Inside, dim lights flickered. Old crates lined the walls. A few men sat around a metal table, laughing until they saw him. Everything went silent. One of them stood up, a tall, lean man with scars across his knuckles. "You lost, Hollywood?" Keanu stepped forward slowly. "I need information." The man smirked. "We sell goods, not answers." "I'm looking for the Ember Circle." The smirk vanished. The men behind him stiffened. That name doesn't get said here. It does now, Keanu said, his voice steady. They came into my home. They tried to take a little girl. I want to know who runs them. The man stared at him for a long moment, then leaned forward. You should walk away. Men who go looking for the phoenix don't come back. Then I'll be the first. Silence. Then the man slowly nodded. They operate through a front company, he said. Luxus Logistics. Runs trucks across state lines. Human cargo sometimes. Kids like her don't just vanish. They get moved, clean, fast, and you never see them. Again, Keanu's fists clenched. Who's in charge? No one knows his real name, but they call him Vander. Keanu froze. Mr. V. Yeah, the man whispered. He doesn't show his face. But if he wants someone gone, they disappear. Keanu turned and walked out without another word. Outside, he called Ramirez. We have a name, Vander, tied to Luxus Logistics. I want everything on them. You're playing with fire, Ramirez warned. Then I'll burn it down. That night, back at the house, Lily handed him a new drawing. This one was different. It showed a truck, gray, with the word Luxus, barely visible, and inside it small figures huddled in shadows. Behind the truck, a man with a mask stood, but this time his eyes were drawn red. Keanu stared at the drawing. I remember the truck, Lily said quietly. They used it to take people away. Kids, moms. Sometimes they never came back. You saw this? Yeah, before Mama told me to run. Keanu felt sick. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about all of them. We're going to end this, he whispered. We're going to stop them. And somewhere, in a dark high-rise office overlooking the city, a phone buzzed. A voice answered coldly. He knows. The man at the desk leaned back, revealing his face for the first time. Vander, his eyes were empty. Then it's time we remind him who we are. They came for her. The sun had barely risen when Keanu stood outside the local police precinct, wearing a hoodie and sunglasses. Beside him, Detective Ramirez unlocked a secured gate leading into a restricted section of the building. An evidence archive. The cold cement walls, the flickering hallway lights, the silence. It all felt like a different world from Hollywood. A world where faces didn't smile for cameras, where truth hid behind bulletproof glass. Keanu wasn't here as a movie star. He was here as a man who had almost died protecting a child, and now he was hunting the people who wanted to take her again. We raided one of their trucks last night, Ramirez said as he pushed open a steel door. Got a tip from an anonymous caller. Inside we found 10 kids, all trafficked, scared, hungry. Keanu clenched his jaw. Ramirez pointed at a whiteboard on the wall. Red strings connected photographs, shipping manifests, digital maps, and company logos. At the center, a single name, Luxus Logistics. Everything ties back to this company, Ramirez continued. But they're clean on paper, real permits, real routes. Nothing links them to Vander. Keanu stepped closer. What about their drivers? Someone has to talk. We found one, Ramirez said. He's under witness protection. Used to run shipments for them. Claims he never saw the full operation. But he did hear the name Vander more than once. Keanu looked around, his thoughts spinning. So what's the plan? Ramirez took a deep breath. We go undercover. Intercept one of their future shipments. Get enough evidence to tie them directly to the trafficking. But it's risky. And if they know you're involved, they already do, Keanu said. Meanwhile, back at Keanu's house, Lily sat quietly at the kitchen table. The new babysitter, Maria, was a trusted family friend from Keanu's past. She'd known him before the movies, before the fame, and she'd dropped everything when he asked for help. You okay, sweet girl? Maria asked, stirring a pot of soup. Lily nodded, still holding her teddy bear. Keanu's trying to stop the bad people. Maria smiled. He's a good man. You're lucky to have him. Lily looked down. I don't want him to get hurt again. Outside, the wind picked up. A black van rolled slowly down the street and parked across from the house. Inside it, Two men sat in silence. One held a phone. Message flashed on screen. Green light. Take the girl. Keanu stood in a dark warehouse near the port, wearing a reflective vest and work gloves. Ramirez stood beside him, both of them pretending to be part of a night crew moving cargo. It was the perfect cover. These operations moved under everyone's noses. Truck 457, Ramirez whispered. That's the one. They approached slowly, pretending to check clipboards. The truck driver, a heavy-set man with tired eyes, looked up nervously. Manifest check, Ramirez said. I already gave it to dispatch, the driver replied. We're confirming new protocol, Keanu added. The driver hesitated, then reached into his cab to grab papers. Ramirez quickly scanned them. This says you're hauling electrical supplies. That's right. Keanu opened the rear trailer doors. What he saw made his blood run cold. Cardboard boxes. Sealed, tight, silent. He stepped inside and tapped one. A faint knock came from within. They're inside, he whispered. Before Ramirez could respond, a sharp voice rang out from the shadows. Don't move. Three men stepped out of the dark, guns raised. We warned you, Reeves. Keanu raised his hands. Ramirez reached for his radio. Too late. One of the men threw a smoke grenade into the warehouse. Chaos exploded. Keanu grabbed a steel pipe and swung, knocking one of the men down. Ramirez tackled another. But amid the fight, the driver jumped, back in his cab and slammed the doors shut. The truck sped off into the night with the children still trapped inside. An hour later, Keanu stood outside the warehouse, bruised and breathless. Officers swarmed the scene. The kids were gone. The truck had vanished. They knew we were coming, Ramirez said. We've got a leak. Keanu didn't answer. His eyes were distant. What is it? Ramirez asked. Lily, he whispered. He pulled out his phone and dialed. No answer. Again, no answer. His chest tightened. He jumped into his car and drove like a man possessed. At the house, the black van was gone. Maria lay on the floor, unconscious but breathing. The door was kicked in. Furniture overturned. Broken glass. Lily's drawing scattered and she was gone. Keanu stood in the doorway, his hands shaking. No, he whispered. He picked up her teddy bear from the floor. No, no, no. His voice broke. For the first time in years, he let tears fall freely. He had promised to protect her, and they took her anyway. Ramirez arrived minutes later. They have her? Keanu nodded, silent. Ramirez looked around, then saw something on the floor. An envelope. He opened it. Inside, a note. Typed. Cold. We gave you a chance. Stay out of this. She's ours now. Keanu stared at it. Something inside. Him shifted. The pain in his side no longer mattered. The cameras didn't matter. The law didn't matter. Where's their hub? He asked Ramirez. What? The Ember Circle's main base. Their real one. Ramirez hesitated. Rumor says it's in the desert, outside Victorville, abandoned military site. We go. Now. You're not thinking clearly. I don't care, Keanu snapped. They took a child. They shot me. They walked into my home. I'm not asking anymore. Ramirez saw the fire in his eyes. All right, he said. We go together. We bring everything we've got. In the darkness of a hidden compound, Lily sat in a cold room tied to a chair. Vander stood across from her, his face blank, his eyes emotionless. Your mother was a fool, he said calmly. She tried to betray me. And you? You're just unfinished business. Lily didn't answer. She looked down. You're going to forget everything you saw, he said, or you won't live long enough to remember it. She looked up at him, eyes burning with silent defiance. And far away, Keanu Reeves prepared for war. The desert storm, the night sky stretched endlessly above them, filled with stars that didn't blink. The desert air was cold and sharp. Keanu stood beside Detective Ramirez on the edge of a forgotten road outside Victorville, California, miles away from the noise of the city. They were just two shadows against a silent land. staring toward an abandoned military compound hidden in a rocky valley. Intel says the Ember Circle moved their operations here about 6 months ago, Ramirez whispered, unfolding a satellite map. It's layered with underground tunnels, armed guards, motion sensors. They aren't amateurs. Keanu's eyes stayed on the horizon. And Lily's inside? Most likely. We intercepted radio, chatter, package secured, awaiting transfer. Keanu tightened his jaw. We're not waiting for backup. I brought 2 units from the Special Task Force, Ramirez replied. They're positioned behind the southern ridge. But once we're in, things will move fast. Keanu turned to him. You still have that badge? Ramirez raised an eyebrow. Why? Keanu took a breath. Because I'm not coming out until Lily's in my arms. Inside the compound, Lily sat in a locked room deep underground. The walls were thick concrete, the floor cold. Cameras watched her from the corners. A single bulb flickered overhead. Her wrists were tied again, her ankles too. A bruise darkened the side of her forehead from when she had struggled. But her eyes, they didn't give up. Vander had visited her only once since bringing her there. He hadn't raised his voice, hadn't threatened her. He didn't need to. His calm, cold silence was worse. He promised her one thing, that by the time the sun rose again she'd be gone, moved far away. Never found again, she whispered to herself, clutching her teddy bear. Keanu will come. Meanwhile, Keanu and Ramirez made their way down the ridge under cover of darkness. The other officers followed in pairs, silent and ready. Each carried night vision goggles and suppressed weapons. Keanu had none of that. He only carried a small flashlight, a fire in his heart, and the memory of Lily's trembling voice in the hospital. As they approached the compound's outer fence, a low hum filled the air. Security sensors. Ramirez tapped on a small remote. The signal was jammed. Now, he whispered. They slipped inside one by one, ducking into shadows. 2 guards patrolled the yard. Keanu grabbed a loose pipe and knocked one out while Ramirez handled the other. They moved deeper, entering a back maintenance tunnel that led into the heart of the building. Inside, the hallways were dim, lined with metal doors and steel beams. Flickering lights buzzed overhead. Keanu walked in front, scanning each turn, like he'd rehearsed it in his head 100 times. Finally, they reached the underground cell block. Ramirez pointed. She's in one of these. Keanu stepped to the nearest door and began checking locks one by one. Then, a small voice. Keanu. He froze. Lily, he whispered. He turned to the 3rd door from the left and slammed his shoulder into it, once, twice. On the 3rd hit, it burst open. Inside, Lily stared up at him, her face pale, her eyes wide with disbelief. He dropped to his knees and pulled her into his arms. You came, she whispered, tears falling down her cheeks. I told you I would. Before they could. Move, the alarm blared. A red light filled the corridor. Doors slammed, footsteps thundered down the hallway. Go, Ramirez shouted. He tossed Keanu a pistol. Get her out. I'll hold them off. Keanu hesitated. Ramirez grinned. Go be the hero, Hollywood. Keanu scooped Lily into his arms and ran. They dodged down a hallway, bullets pinging off the walls. Behind them, he ducked into a side tunnel, kicked through a loose grate and crawled into a crawlspace that led to the outer yard. Lily clung to his neck. You're bleeding. Just a scratch. He wasn't lying, but he wasn't telling the whole truth either. He reached the exit door, pushed it open, and stopped. Vander stood there alone, blocking the way. His expression was blank. In his hand, a silenced pistol. Put her down, Vander said calmly. Keanu stepped forward. Let us go. Vander shook his head. This girl, she knows things, dangerous things. Her mother made the mistake of crossing me. Don't make the same mistake. Keanu met his gaze. Her mother tried to protect her, and died for it. Keanu placed Lily gently behind him and raised the gun Ramirez had given him. So will you. Vander smirked. You really think you can kill me? Keanu didn't answer. He fired. The bullet grazed Vander's shoulder, sending him spinning. He returned fire, hitting Keanu in the leg. Keanu dropped, groaning. Vander aimed again, but before he could shoot, a deafening crack echoed. Ramirez stood behind him, a rifle in his hands. Vander collapsed. "You said you weren't coming out without her," Ramirez said, helping Keanu up. "So I figured I better stick around." Keanu laughed, coughing. "You always this dramatic?" "Only when saving movie stars." They made it to the extraction point just as backup flooded the compound. SWAT teams secured the area. The children were rescued from hidden rooms. Documents, files, and computer drives were seized. It was the beginning of the end for the Ember Circle. Keanu was loaded into an ambulance. Lily beside him, holding his hand. "You're gonna be okay," she whispered. He smiled. "Only because of you." Days later, in a quiet courtroom, Keanu stood beside Lily as the judge reviewed the emergency guardianship paperwork. "You've already saved this child's life twice, Mr. Reeves," the judge said softly. "I have no doubt you'll protect her well." She stamped the papers. Keanu Reeves was now her legal guardian. Lily squeezed his hand tightly. He looked down at her. "You're safe now. Really safe." "And Mama?" she asked. Keanu knelt in front of her. "We're going to find out what happened, and we'll honor her, together." Outside, the press waited. Flashing cameras, loud voices. But inside that courthouse, it was just the beginning of a new chapter. Keanu Reeves had faced villains on screen, but none compared to what he had done in real life. And it wasn't over yet. What he said while bleeding out will break you. A week had passed since the compound was raided and the Ember Circle was dismantled, but the world still buzzed with what happened. News stations flooded with footage of Keanu Reeves limping out of the desert, holding a little girl in his arms. People around the world watched in awe. They called him a hero, the man who took a bullet for a child, the man who went to war for someone else's daughter. But for Keanu, it wasn't about praise, it was about a promise, and that promise wasn't finished yet. On a quiet morning, Keanu sat at his kitchen table with Lily. She had a new backpack now. Her clothes fit her right and she smiled more often. But there were still shadows in her eyes. Sometimes she still flinched at loud noises. Sometimes she cried in her sleep. Keanu never left her side. "Did Mama ever do drawings like me?" she asked softly, flipping through her notebook. Keanu looked at her. "You remember more about her?" Lily nodded. "She used to draw birds, always the same one." "A phoenix?" "Yeah." Keanu's heart skipped. He pulled out a file that Ramirez had dropped off the night before. Inside it were old photos, records, and one name highlighted in yellow, Valeria Jensen, Lily's mother. And according to the new files, Valeria wasn't just someone who worked for Vander. She had been an undercover agent, FBI. She had spent 3 years inside the Ember Circle, gathering evidence from within. Her final transmission was a voice memo sent moments before she disappeared. Ramirez forwarded the recording to Keanu. With trembling fingers, Keanu pressed play. Valeria's voice crackled through the speaker. "This is Agent Valeria Jensen. If you're hearing this, I'm either dead or worse. They found out about me. I don't have time to explain everything, but I need to get my daughter out. Her name is Lily. If anyone hears this, please, please keep her safe. She knows things, not just because of what she saw, but because of what I told her. They'll come for her. And the only person who can protect her now is someone who's brave enough to care." Keanu closed his eyes. He had met Valeria once years ago, briefly on a flight. She had sat next to him, and they talked about life. She never said what she did for a living, but she had told him she had a daughter, and that she hoped the world would be kind to her. He hadn't known it then, but now he was part of that hope. 2 nights later, Keanu took Lily to visit Valeria's old apartment. It had been sealed as evidence, but the FBI gave permission. Inside, everything was frozen in time. Photos on the wall, a blanket on the couch, a half-finished drawing taped to the fridge, another phoenix. Lily walked around slowly, touching things, carefully. In the corner of the room, she found an old photo album. She opened it and gasped. "That's me," she said, pointing at a baby photo. Keanu smiled. "You've always been strong." Lily turned the page, and there was something else. A note tucked between the pictures. Handwritten, fading. It read, "If anything happens to me, tell her I love her. And tell whoever finds this there's a USB drive behind the painting. The truth is in there. Don't let him win." Keanu quickly pulled the painting from the wall. Behind it, taped carefully, was a small black flash drive. Ramirez met Keanu the next morning and helped crack the drive open. Inside were folders of documents, flight logs, names, bank transfers. Enough evidence to expose not just the Ember Circle, but powerful politicians, businessmen, and foreign agents who were part of it. "This is big," Ramirez whispered. "This will shake the world." Keanu nodded. "Do it." The FBI released a press statement the next day. Arrests followed, media exploded, and in every headline, one name stood out, not just because of who he was, but because of what he did. KeanuReeves. On a bright afternoon, weeks after the dust had settled, Keanu took Lily to a local community center where she was scheduled to speak. Briefly, quietly, with other children who had gone through trauma. It was a private event. No cameras. Just people who understood pain. Lily held a small piece of paper in her hands. Her speech. Simple words. Keanu kneeled beside her. "You sure you want to do this?" She nodded. "Mama was brave. Now it's my turn." She walked to the front of the room and stood behind the small podium. Her voice was soft but steady. "I used to be scared. But someone taught me that being brave means you do the right thing, even when you're scared. He got hurt to protect me. He found me when no one else was looking, and he told me something when I thought he was going to die." The room went silent. Lily looked directly at Keanu. He said, "You matter. You're worth saving. And if this is my last breath, I'm glad I used it to save you." Gasps filled the room. A few people covered their mouths. Others wept quietly. Lily continued, "He didn't die. But if he had, those words would have lived forever." She stepped down from the podium and walked straight into Keanu's arms. He held her tight, whispering, "I meant every word." Outside, the world continued. Keanu never made a movie about the story. He never cashed in. He never gave long interviews. But everywhere he went after that, people didn't just see a star. They saw the man who bled for a little girl he didn't even know. And what he said while bleeding out? It wasn't for fame. It wasn't for cameras. It was for her. "You matter. You're worth saving." And sometimes, those words are enough to change the world.